Hey guys, what's up? So today I just wanted to film a video about books that I bought a while ago and I just haven't gotten around to reading yet for various reasons, such as I was reading a more interesting book at the time and I just couldn't get around to reading them, or I was busy with work and graduate school applications, or because I didn't want to, which, it happens sometimes. And so if you're like me, you probably go to bookstores and you just want to buy all the books, because I always just want to buy all the books. Like, it's literally the only thing that I spend money on. Honestly, like, I don't spend a lot of money on clothes. I don't spend a lot of money on makeup or food or anything else that's, actually necessary in life. I mostly just blow it all out on books, and I don't really know why. I feel like maybe it's because I love watching booktubers, and I'm in Bookstagram and book Twitter, and there are people who are constantly hyping up certain books, and I don't know, I just want them. And I do have a smaller library in my town, so a lot of the books usually they don't have. I probably could ask them to buy a book for me, but I don't know, I feel bad. I don't like asking for things. It's an insecurity I have. But like, yeah, so I buy these books from Barnes and Nobles or a local indie bookstore, and I'm so excited when I get them, and then I get home and I put them in my bookshelf and they stay on my bookshelf. Like, I just never get around to reading them, and I think that's so bad because I spent money on them. Like, this is something that I spend my hard-earned money on, and yet I don't ever get around to reading them, and that is very problematic. So these are some books that I've picked out, and these are a decent chunk of books that, I bought because I really thought I was going to read them. I really thought they were interesting. There was a reason I bought them, and I never got around to, and I think I didn't give them a fair chance. So the first book I have here is The Tiger at Midnight by Swati Thirdala. And I got this because I thought it was so cool to have a South Asian mythology inspired fantasy, and I don't think there are many of them out there, and I thought it was so fascinating how she used Hindu mythology, which I think is kind of like a very underrated mythology, because there is some like crazy stuff that happens in Hindu mythology that I think would make great fantasy series. But I thought it was so cool that she used that, and that, there was South Asian representation in a fantasy series, which I don't really see that often. And I felt that, okay, this is so cool. I definitely can get behind this. And I got it, and I also thought the cover is gorgeous, just, oh. I got this, and it turned out to be a little too YA fantasy. I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with being a YA fantasy. This just felt almost too much like a stereotypical YA fantasy. Like, the synopsis in the back says, kill the general, find the assassin, evade his soldiers, save the country, don't fall in love. And like, that just seems so stereotypically YA fantasy, and it just kind of turned me off. So I've been putting this off, but I really didn't give it the fair chance it deserved. And I really do want to support South Asian authors, South Asian characters, South Asian settings. I really do want to support more literature like this. So I think I should give it a fair chance and see what I think. So next up, I have Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. So this book has every single thing that I would love in any form of media I consume. It has the found family trope, which is honestly like my favorite trope. Like, I am so weak for people who find each other and they don't really have any friends or family, but they find each other and they find family in each other, and it's, oh, I just could eat that shit up every day. And I do. I love the found family trope. And so this book has that, and it has, you know, space. I adore space. I think there should be more books about space and aliens and stuff like that. I know there are a lot out there, but there's never enough, because space is pretty freaking cool. And so I thought this book is a found family trope in space. Like, it was written for me. And then, like, I did read some of it. I think I got to like page 60 of it. And some of the characters are really hard to get into. So it's told in the point of view of every single character in this group of people. I think there's like 6 people. And so you get a chapter in a point of view of every different character. And some of the characters, especially one, I really didn't like her point of view, because I thought that's just not how people talk. It's not how people think. It doesn't seem realistic, and it doesn't need to be super realistic, but it was just kind of annoying, and I didn't like that. So I was like, okay, I'll give it another chance. And you know what? It has a diverse cast. Like, you know, it has the main female character, one of the main female characters. She's half Chinese, which is super cool. There's a brown female character, which is super cool. There's an elf with brown skin, which is, you know, we'll take what we can get in this genre. And yeah, so like it's kind of diverse. Like the cast, you know, I want to give it another chance and see what will happen. I think what the case for this book is probably it's supposed to give characters room to evolve and have character development over time. But in the beginning, it's so hard to get into them in the first place that I really was like, is it worth it? But I definitely should just give it a fair chance. So the next book I have is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This was actually a book I got because it was super hyped up in BookTube and Book Twitter and Bookstagram and all those book spheres. I thought it sounded very interesting. I thought it was kind of cool how it's supposed to have main characters who struggle with mental illness. And I think they probably are depicted well because it is so popular in those spheres of influence, you know? And so I was like, okay, so I'll give it a chance. And I just never did. Like, I don't know. There was really no good reason for me not to read this. I just didn't. I just decided I don't want to. Like, I got it, and then I think I was just going through like a reading slump, so I just put it in my shelf. And there are times where I was like, oh, I should pick that up, but then I just decide not to. And I think I should give this book a chance because it is so highly hyped, you know? There should be a reason behind the hype. And so I would really like, I think I need to give it a chance and see. The next book I have is The Girls by Emma Cline. So I'm extremely fascinated by cults. I think cults are very intriguing. I love watching documentaries about Jonestown, all those crazy Christian cults, all those crazy cults of every religion and non-religion. They're just so fascinating to me how you really change yourself to want to be accepted into this group of people, right? Like, because you do change a lot of your worldview to be in a cult. Like, it's really fascinating seeing interviews of people after they've left a cult. Like, there was a very interesting documentary about Scientology, and they interviewed Scientologists after they left, and they would talk about, oh, you know, like, we knew it was wrong. Like, there was a part of us that knew it was wrong, but we were so happy to finally feel accepted in this place, to finally feel like this place really accepted us, that we just went along with it. And I think that's just a fascinating psychological concept, and I really feel like I need to read more books about it, and that's why I chose this one. So I have an indie bookstore in where I live, and what makes it interesting is that they have bookshelves, and then underneath it there are post-it notes with staff recommendations. So then you'll just have a bunch of books, and a couple of books will just have like these post-it notes underneath them with saying, this was recommended by blank because of blank blank blank. So I did choose this one because there was a keyword of cult, and then I just never got around to reading it either. I think I was supposed to read it, and I just, you know, something kept coming up, and then I got busier and busier, and I just didn't read it. And so I really want to get to reading it because it does sound very interesting, and a lot of people I know who aren't even a part of booktube have read it and really think it's interesting. So yeah, this is definitely something I want to get into. Oh, the next book I have is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. So I don't really know much about Hank Green and John Green. I know they run a YouTube channel together, but I personally never really watched it. I did read a couple of John Green novels, and I didn't really like it because I thought that he really relied on the manic pixie dream girl trope a lot, and I think he tried to subvert it, but I don't think he did that well. So I never actually got around to reading a lot of his novels. So I read Looking for Alaska, and I read Paper Town Girls, and I read A Fault in Our Stars, and neither of them were really above 3-star reads for me. I think A Fault in Our Stars was the highest rating I gave for all of them, around 3 stars. But like, I don't really like his writing. I didn't really like the style of his writing. I didn't like the characters that he put out. I thought they were more one-dimensional, and they didn't really subvert any tropes or do anything that I think he went out to accomplish to do. And so I found, well, maybe I can give his brother a chance. So I don't really know much about this. I know it is like a soft sci-fi novel, but I think it's more of a social commentary about, you know, social media and how it affects people, which is also a very interesting thing that I think is something that is going to affect our generation more than any other generation. So I am interested to see how it's tackled in this, and I am interested to see how they'll go about doing this. And I don't know, I'm actually kind of excited to read it. I just, you know, we'll see how it goes. The next book I have is Staying by A.G. Howard, and I literally bought this book because I thought the cover looked really pretty. That's the only reason I bought this book. I know, it's a very shallow reason, but I just thought, this is a gorgeous cover, I need to have it. I don't know too much about the author. I don't really know too much about the kinds of stuff she does. Like, I think she takes like classic fairy tales and puts a fantasy twist on them. I believe this one is a twist on The Princess and the Pea. From what I know of the synopsis, it's just about the main character is a girl who can't speak or make any sounds, and she's born into this kingdom of daylight, but then through circumstances she gets exiled and she gets put into the kingdom of nighttime, and it just feels like, okay, so it also seems kind of typical YA fantasy, which isn't a bad thing, but it is also kind of gets repetitive and boring after a while. So it'll be interesting to see if this one does anything different. Final book I have is kind of a cheat because it did only come out recently, and I only did get it recently, and that's Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I'm only putting it on this list because I have an interesting relationship with Leigh Bardugo books. I've only read one. I've only read Six of Crows, and it took me a while to get through because of my mind space at the time. It wasn't the book. When I finished the book, I actually really loved it, But like it took me like a solid like 3 months to like get through the book, and that was because I just wasn't very in a reading mood, and I really didn't like the like I started the first one in the Grisha trilogy, Shadow and Bone, I think, and I really didn't like it at all. Like I kind of DNF'd it after a chapter. I know that sounds bad. I really want to go back and read it because of the new Shadow and Bone Netflix series that's coming out, and I really do want to see that. But I just don't see myself reading it. I don't know. It was very, it just didn't interest me at all. But this one does seem very different. It is an adult fantasy, and it seems more occult and mystery, and it's not set in like a completely different fantasy universe like the Grisha verses. It is set in our world. It takes place in Yale, so I do think I want to give this a try, and I want to read it in October just because it seems very October-y, and I want to see how I feel. Alright guys, that's all from me today. I just wanted to talk about the books that I want to get to that I've had for a long time. And I was wondering, do you guys have any books like that you just bought and thought you would get to them right away but then never did and really want to get back to them? If you do, please let me know. Thanks!